Before we start, I'd like to say thank you to Paul Steinbeck. I'd like to say thank you to John Piper, especially Mr. Piper, who initiated this and made it possible, and then Mr. Steinbeck for actually realizing this. Suddenly there's an opportunity to talk about my work. I'd like to thank these gentlemen. It has been a while since I've had the opportunity to come to Columbia University. I've always considered, and rightfully so, that Columbia is one of the great institutions. I'm very aware and proud of this university's decision to bring in George Lewis. I feel that George Lewis continues to be one of the great scholar musicians of this time period in many ways. He is the W.E.B. Du Bois person of this time period. I love him, and I'm looking forward to the future with the hope that there might be a possibility to have more connection between Columbia University and Wesleyan University. Today, when John asked me about the possibility of maybe talking some about things, I found myself thinking, oh, well, this would be something that would be informal. As such, I did not bring materials as such. Rather, I thought it might be useful to simply talk about things today and hopefully give a background on the evolution of my work and how it relates to the music that we're going to be doing for the next 3 days. Okay, the first thing I would say would be the 12+1 ensemble is an ensemble that I have been hoping for a while. The number 12 is the nuclear number of the music system. Nuclear number in the sense that with the number 12, I will be able to demonstrate the Tri-Centric components of the music system. And plus, I feel especially grateful that I was able to have musicians, the musicians I wanted, and that they were available. And I must say, I'm a lucky guy to have a chance to play music with people like Carl Tester, James Fay, who's your James Fay. The work in the last 10 years for me has been a shift from elemental design and evolution into tri-centric design and evolution. By shift in this context, I'm referring to in the early components of trying to construct the music. My emphasis would, in the beginning, involve an interest in propositional logic, numerology, Friends initial, as a way to factor non-empirical and trans-empirical information into my system. The understanding being that in the 1960s, as I began to look for my music, I came to see that the serialists, as much as I loved them, as much as I loved the music of Arnold Schoenberg, as much as I loved the music of Janis Xenakis and, of course, Mr. Stockhausen, that serialism would not be correct for me. At the same time, it was clear to me also that the idea of free jazz, freedom defined as existential freedom and practiced in the way that it was practiced, was fulfilling to me. I loved it in every way, but it did not encompass all what I needed for myself and what I was looking for. My point being that in the end, I would come to look at the time space of the 1960s, especially the middle 60s, as a time period that was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to, as the space opened up, to discover the trans-idiomatic musics. Suddenly, the idea of world music was not just a hip phrase, but rather there would be possibilities to examine the music of Ravi Shankar, learn about music masters whose work brought in a different set of components for us to learn about. for myself, as a guy who was interested in the trans-European composers tradition, the African-American creative music tradition, the trans-Asian music dynamics, I looked at the time period of the 1960s as an opportunity to redefine components and to design a component based on trans-idiomatic components rather than idiomatic components. And so after the first solo concert I had in 1967, where I approached the solo concert as a total improvisation, when that experience was over, it was clear to me that the idea of freedom was not what I was looking for myself, but rather I was looking for a way to generate materials that would give insight into identity. What are the terms of identity from a tri-centric perspective and from a trans-idiomatic perspective? It would be at that point, at the point of the second solo concert, where I would begin to think in terms of the emergence of my work leading into what I now call my music. And from that point, looking at elementals, syntax, into schematic structures, into alternative coding structures, into dream structures, into coordinate music structures. This would be a way of focusing on the various elements, seeking to evolve those elements in a way that would make it relevant to my interests. Since 1995-96, I found that I had come to a point in my work where it would be now possible to start to construct the building blocks of what has become the tri-centric music. And by the term building blocks in this context, I'm talking of building blocks based upon the evolution of those informations that came through, especially syntactical information. That is to say, when I talk of the number 12 and 12 different sonic geometric principles for language, that the last 30, 40 years of my life has been spent evolving those 12 components in different spaces. By the time of the 2005, 2006, as I began to look for the next tier of evolution, hoping for that anyway, I would come to think in terms of the house of Shala as a tri-centric phenomenon rather than just elementals, where in the beginning the number 1 related to, in the house of the circle, long sound. In the house of the rectangle, for instance, the drone, the use of the drone, or in the house of the triangle, the use of ritual and ceremonial musics. At that point, I would begin to construct the new holistic relationships that I'm trying to move towards. That is to say, my hope is to create a holistic music that encompasses and respects body, mind, known, unknown, and intuition. And so starting at that point, going back to the example of long sound, house of the circle, drone, house of the rectangle, house of the rectangle. By the time we get to the triangle, the ghost trance music then would become the new prototype in the house of the triangle, starting in this second stage of work. And at that point, I began to take courses in the musics of the Native Americans in various time spaces. I, from that point, would start to research the great Persian trance musics, African trance musics, And of course, we never think of Europe as having a trance music, but the Gregorian chants actually is a trance music. And so after taking courses and studying various trance musics, the understanding being that my interest in creative music is not just simply an existential interest in looking at sounds, but rather I agree with the aesthetic of the AACM and Muhal Richard Abrams when he talked of the first challenge for the creative artist is to deal with his or herself. The idea of self-realization, that has always been an important principle in the Egyptonian musics. And as such, the idea of the ghost trance musics would give me the hope of having something that transcends intellectual, interesting, or not interesting. From that point, the ghost trance musics would come to serve several functions. And by that I'm saying, going back to composition 113, which was the first of the holistic structures that involved the friendly instrumentalists having poetics in terms of a story, specific directionality as related to the compositional template. Composition 113 would demonstrate individual area space initiatives. And inside of those initiatives, there would be notated material representing the 12 encounters with a story of poetics that would be internalized by the experiencer, improviser. And that composition would become the beginning of an interest in area space. From that point, from composition 113, I would move away from individual area space into community space, later into nation state space, later continental space, into global space. The idea of the fact of composite reality in the galaxy, solar systems area space, expanding galaxy solar spaces. The ghost trance musics then can be looked at in several ways, kind of like a utility belt, depending upon which space we're talking about. If, for instance, the subject is continental space, the ghost trance musics can be looked at as a system of highways or choo-choo train tracks where 3 experiencers can start in New York City and with a menu meet and finish the concert in Los Angeles, but each of the experiencers can take different trajectories in accordance to whatever the code is of the particular performances. And the idea of a continental area space as related to ghost trance musics then would have ghost trance musics as fixed highway lanes, as opposed to if you were walking across America, you'd walk in the house of the circle, you can go in any direction. The choo-choo train tracks then will become a very important analogy in the same way that if the subject is a New York subway system, we can talk of local trains, we can talk of express trains, and we can talk of correspondence trains going across town. I would seek then with the ghost trance musics to have some example of those kind of trajectories. If the subject is the galaxy, ghost trance musics can be looked at as telemic structures. By telemic structures, I'm saying that the ghost trance musics give the possibility to locate an object in space. More and more, as I think about the virtual three-dimensional space, the ghost trance musics will give the possibility to have a strategy that focuses on particular spaces inside of the designated area space scheme. And so that I have now had the good luck to finish up on composition 360. And in finishing up on 360, I have come to the end of the Ghost Trance musics, with the exception of maybe 15 compositions that are not completed. Say 3/4 of the works are completed, but I don't have secondary structures or dynamics. That hopefully will be finished before the summer, certainly by July. The completion of the Ghost Trance musics then, for me, is a serious affair that will give me the ability, with all future houses, to have the possibility to have a trajectory logic for placement. Later, looking at a virtual reality area space, the Ghost Trance musics will give me the possibility of having a local train for events that will take place in area space. We'll call it 508. Express train to go deeper into some other aspect of the territories, and the friendly experiencer can then get off there. Or there can be combination logics. The 12+1 Tet in the future will begin to experience and explore combination logics. Combination logics in this context would be first species Ghost Trance musics to a particular area space, transfer to second species depending upon where the friendly traveler wants to move in the system. And so the completion of this material will be, well, it's a happy day for me, and will give me the possibility now to have, as part of the template of the House of Schaller, possibility to set up Ghost Trance structures in the same way that we talk of the United States, the state of Schaller, or the territory of Schaller, representing the House of One, the state of Ashminton, representing the house number 2, the state of Jorio, representing the house number 3, and so forth on to the number 12. My understanding and hope is that as we move into the third millennium, there will be the possibility to have defined intentionalities inside of a three-dimensional sonic space in a way that will hopefully be relevant to the new possibilities which are opening up for us in this time space. The understanding being that the great leaps in computer technology in this period, the hope of virtual technology, all of these breakthroughs, in my opinion, are related to the strength of our country in terms of creativity. And creative music directly benefits from the breakthroughs in technology as well. And so my hope is to build a system that's three-dimensional, a system that has poetics, and by poetics, in this context, I'm saying each of the 12 houses in the system has a character. In the next 10, 15 years, if I'm lucky enough, I'd like to write the story of Schaller, the story of Ashminton. This will be useful in the future where we have a state of activities with poetics. And so the friendly experiencer, like going to Disneyland, you come in and it's like, oh, you can't see everything in one day, but you can go to Adventureland and check out these rides or something like that. And you can have experiences. At the end of this effort is only to carry forward that which has always been here, this incredible creativity that we have in our country, and looking for ways to, in this case, to create a model that will be a model of experience, a model of ideas, moving to structural ideas, and a model of poetics that will allow for ritual and ceremonial musics, that will allow for dreamtime experiences, and that will give the friendly experiencer narrative structures as part of the composite experience. That is to say that in the future, I'd like to have concerts where we take one scene from Trillium Hour, put it in with 4 ghost trans structures, move it into the song space. The friendly experiencer will have the option of coming into the middle of it, taking one of the singer's positions, or interacting with a singer in real time in a way that will be very different. And by saying this, what I'm saying is my understanding of methodology at this point, as far as what I've been working with, involves the idea of origin components. Origin components, in this case, could be composing a composition in the traditional way that we talk of a composition. 2 secondary components, and by secondary components in this context, I'm saying the flute part in composition 87 can be extracted from 87 and played by 100 tubas. And 3, genetic identity. And by genetic identity in this context, I'm saying 1 measure from composition 96 can be placed in composition 103, where it becomes a smorgasbord. I think this will, well, I feel in myself that this structural feature is one of the main outlines of the system, and one of the areas I'm most excited about. That is to say, taking a composition, playing it as it was written, and then doing other things with it. The idea of a tri-centric music is an idea of a music which can be refitted together like an erector set that can be put together in different ways depending on what the situation is, depending on the duration of the experience, depending on the proclivities of the friendly experiencer. This is what I'm trying to move towards, where more and more the creative experience will be a multi-hierarchical experience rather than a mono-hierarchical experience. And so the 12+1 ensemble demonstrates a breakthrough that occurred in the Yoshi's experience, and that was would be the beginning of the tri-quadrant strategies, where each region is autonomous and checks into the leader, so-called, or the national structure on occasion. But that autonomy allows for multiple hierarchical strategies that go past what can happen with one person generating all decisions. And so 3 more days of this. We played last night, and I'm very grateful to the Cosmics that I've been able to have chances to play music that I'm still excited about music. Hooray for Cosmics, hooray for our country, hooray for creativity. No matter how complex things look in this time cycle, I feel that we have the kind of creativity and goodwill in our country where we can always have hope and turn things around, even though our leadership is complex. But as far as I'm concerned, I hate the right and the left and the independents. But in the end, I feel American creativity is the trump card. And creativity and the work of the new masters of the third millennia, some of whom are here in this room, that there's every reason for us to have hope for the future, because things keep going forward, and somehow we keep producing the people who are able to do the work. Mm-hmm. And so that would be my opening statement. Questions, and we can just kind of talk about things if you'd like to talk about things.
I have a question about, earlier you were talking about trans-idiomaticism as opposed to idiomaticism, and I know you've talked about idiomatic certainty and a sort of I'm wondering if there's a connection then between idiomatic certainty and transit idiomatic uncertainty, and if that has any meaning to you, and if so, if you could talk about what that concept would mean.
Wonderful question. I feel that part of the problem of the left has been the decision to embrace idiomatic certainty. I feel that the African American leadership has embraced idiomatic certainty. I feel that the left is lost in the time space of the 60s based on propositions in the 60s that have nothing to do with this time period. For creative musicians, well, I think it's important to remember that if we talk of the fifth restructural cycle musics, the musics we refer to as bebop, a guy like Charlie Parker was producing a music that was demonstrating becoming. It wasn't about became, it was becoming. And idiomatic certainty, in my opinion, is related to the wonder of the stylist, and is also related to the beauty of the tradition. But in the last 10 and 15 years, with the decision to cut off restructural development and individual initiatives, we see the music that is called jazz discovering idiomatic certainty. For myself, I need a surprise. I need a surprise to keep going. I need to be able to kick it about. I need to be able to have something that I'm looking at that makes me feel like Paul Desmond when he was playing The Song Is You, or Karl-Heinz Stockhausen's Momente. Remember when we saw Honore? We were like, and so idiomatic certainty is a way of embracing the unknown and a way of looking for a surprise. And inside of that, there are still explorative possibilities. I think your question is right on. I don't know if I answered it, but it's right on.
Thank you.
Question, thoughts?
Maybe could you talk a little bit about the latest release here, Composition 345, thoughts behind that?
Composition 345 was composed about 4 or 5 months ago. We had a possibility to come to Victoriaville because of my good friend Michel Lavassier, and it was just simply a pleasure to have a chance to work with people who I love and respect, who understand my work, and whose efforts are helping me to learn more about what I'm doing. And so we had a gig, which is a big thing for me, since there's not that much work, especially in America. And last year, I had, was it last year or this year, we had the opportunity to play in Philadelphia and Boston. I was totally shocked to have opportunities to play in America. And I'm very grateful for that. I'd like to hope in the future that our country will open up again and there'll be more possibilities for creativity, even non-marketplace creativity. And so 345, musicians got the music, had a nice wine, we went out and kicked it about, and everyone tries to do their best. I'm not interested in a mistake or a not mistake. Just kick it about, have some fun, do your best, work together as a team, try to keep it positive, and understand that we're some lucky guys and gals to be able to be playing music. Mm-hmm. I think the musicians community needs to remember that not everyone can go to music and have it help them in the way that the musicians can. And so we have a special responsibility for those who would accept that responsibility, or for those who feel that way, to approach our work in a certain kind of way. And so for the Victoriaville experience, I'm working with really good people. Everyone does their best, and we try to find something fresh. That's the only thing I really kind of try to put on myself, not to go back to that I know I can do, but it requires being able to make a mistake without killing yourself, without beating yourself over the head. Fortunately for me, more than my quotas of mistakes. So this philosophy fits right in.
I don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone.
Questions, thoughts? Yes, sir.
I'm curious as to the nature of your compositions. Are you trying to create like a mythological structure as well, like a structure that people can sort of filter their own creative processes through? Like it seems like you're creating like a social, like a not just like an observation, but like just an actual like construct that people can sort of work through. And especially when you talk about the idea of being uncertain and always needing an exploratory element for it, and when you like apply that to like American leadership today, I'm just curious as to like.
Well, I think your question is very relevant. My hope is to, with my work, to build a spiritual position, an esoteric position, and an occult position. That will be conducive to third millennial proclivities and the hope of a fresh understanding of spiritualism, a spiritualism that will celebrate God, Goddess, and mystery children. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, the idea of holism in this context is a holism with intentionalities, with the hope of a dynamic spirituality. Even for atheists or non-atheists who are not interested in any kind of spiritualism, there is a space in my work, or this is what I would like to hope. Mm-hmm. Questions? I have a question. James Fay, if you continue playing your part in the way that you're playing and you're rushing the tempo is making me sweat. Knowing I can't keep up. Now that I'm 60 years old, I've become the ballad guy of my own group.
I could ask another question.
I come to Columbia and I'm getting questions from Wesleyan University people.
You've mentioned the Ghost Trance music as House 1 under Shawa. And I was wondering if your new music's, the Falling River music and the Diamond Curtain Wall music, the graphic and the electronic work, also fall under a house of one of your characters?
Yes. Diamond Curtain Wall music's House of Ashman, number 2. Falling River music's number 3, which is a house of ornamental logics. We talk of we use the trio as the beginning of that domain. And my hope is now to continue working with video. I think you guys have been taking video classes. I want to have an interactive video. I've been studying for the last couple of years Super Collider, which is an interactive electronic modeling program. I'd like to hope, say, by next year, if not before the end of this year, that the early prototypes will be available, the early video and image logics model will be available, and that will itself constitute another house. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure which house at this point. Mm-hmm. But your question is totally relevant. Thoughts, questions? Yes, sir.
I went online and I kind of noticed there's not much on there for you, or like the website that I kind of got in touch with was not quite updated. Will more of this with your current and future projects, will that be more posted online for America to see your creativity and hopefully spur on more gigs and all the above kind of thing?
Thank you. I have always known that I was blessed, even though I'm a virtuoso complainer. I have good people with me. Jason Guthartz, who has put together the discography on the net. I think the cosmics, that my work could attract someone of his caliber, and that he would feel compelled to come and help an old guy out. And I have been helped by many people. Yes, I'd like to hope to use the internet in its fullest, but in fact, I wouldn't be where I'm at on the internet right now were it not for people like James Fay, who set up my website for me. It's really funny and beautiful. Professor Braxton at Wesleyan. What I've discovered, I give these guys a +3, and they give me back a +4 billion. And that sometimes I'm not sure who the student is, but I know it's really me. I've been blessed to have a chance to work with some very incredible people, and so I have a responsibility for that. But yes, the hope is to evolve the internet site and to eventually look for ways to have interactive dynamics with the internet. I'm learning from my students about what the possibilities are in this period. Many of the things that I talked about 10 and 15 years ago are now possible now. But I wouldn't necessarily know about it unless James Fay or Carl Tester alerts me to this is a program that could help you. And that has been happening in the last 10 and 15 years. These guys have been pulling an old man into the third millennium. I've been saying, oh no, what about, where's the melody? So forget it. You had a question?
Yes. You talked about your evolution of your musical system, and I'd like to know how you see your evolution as an instrumentalist in the last 20 years or 10 years.
Good question. As an instrumentalist, in the AACM, and this was the organization that redefined multi-instrumentalism, we came to appreciate, of all things, the value of having an instrument to play that you haven't mastered, and that has been very important to me. I remember when Arnold Coleman came out with the recording with Donato on drums, and everybody put it down. Oh, this guy can't play. And I said, well, look, he's a young guy. He gets tired. You know, he plays a bit, then he slows down. He's only like 8 or 9. And everyone put Arnold Coleman down. Meanwhile, John Cage does 3 minutes and 33 seconds. You just open the piano, close the piano. Oh, that's fine. And lots of great liner notes to not so much justify it, but in the end, it justifies it. But you can't play music with children, or if you do, the children have to measure up to adult specifications. I thought Arnold Coleman's decision to bring in Donato Coleman was revolutionary and healthy. And from that point, when the AACM began to explore the possibilities of not being a virtuoso on every instrument, or thinking of yourself based on only one instrument, that would be very important to me. And so it was from that perspective that I started playing the accordion and playing instruments that I had not necessarily mastered, but I was interested in the sound of the instrument. And so I've tried to carry that forward as well. The idea of it's not about virtuoso, it's about music and meaning, doing the best you can do. And at certain times, it's very good not to be on your home instruments. Use the garbage cans. Activities, sonic activities, that's what I'm interested in. As for the evolution of my understanding of my instrumental work, with the solo musics, I've used the solo musics as a template to readdress syntax, readdress what syntax poses for instrumental technique. Okay, 40 years down the road, what am I thinking about as an instrumentalist? I'm really thinking more now about just having some fun, play something that's honest, kick it about. Don't play too long, give everybody a chance to play. Try to learn from what my colleagues are playing. One big difference that's occurred musically for me has been that I insist on enjoying playing music. Whereas a young guy, if I made a mistake, it was the only thing I heard after the performance, and I'd go away for weeks thinking about what was wrong rather than what was right. And that has been a big change. And so as an instrumentalist, I'm still excited by the instruments, and I need to have that physicalness that comes from playing the instruments. At the same time, I'm 60 years old. More and more I think about electronics and video technology, and I want to move in that direction. But I'm still interested in the instruments, although it's complex traveling with the large instruments. Takes all the money that comes from profit, goes into shipping the large instruments around. So I only think about something like that, say, once every 10 years or something like that. There's been another change too. 1996 until recently, I have been in a cosmic space that was complex, and so I had to cut my losses. I stopped practicing flute, because the flute is the kind of instrument that you have to practice every day, and I couldn't do that. And so I'm not playing the flute right now. I play a little clarinet, and I'm considering to really go back into the clarinet, maybe even the flute. It's really a time problem. Now that Nikki Braxton and I are back together, I'm thinking about maybe trying to go back and get back with the other instruments and start practicing again. But how has it changed? Well, it's changed in the sense that when you do something for 40 years, you have a relationship with it. And in some ways, the relationship becomes easier. In other ways, it becomes more complex, because I'm only interested, well, I'm not only interested, but I'm really interested in that I can't do. And I'm interested in exploring and finding a surprise. But when you're a crutcher playing for 40 and 50 years, it's hard to find the kind of surprises that I want. Excuse me. So I go to Nico Mitchell and James Fay and Carl Tester, and I try to steal them blind. So that's what's changed in my instrumental experience. Next question. Yes, sir?
Yeah,
Jason?
I'm interested in the Ghost Trance music system as an approach for organizing large ensemble performances. And I was wondering, I kind of see it in one respect as an outgrowth, going back to the solo music and language music, that being the DNA, and then another maybe landmark being the coordinate musics of the quartet, and now we have the Ghost Trance music. Are you thinking in terms of strategies to incorporate improvisation in larger ensembles? Was Ghost Trance music a response, or was that a problem you had in mind?
A very good question, Jason. In fact, 3 years ago, we had a project in the Hockey Center. It was the first of the Sonic Genomes. We had 55 people, and we performed the music. It went for 8 hours. In the future, I'd like to have the concert start at 12 hours and end at 12 at night, so we have a 12-hour experience. And so the Ghost Trance musics would be used to delineate territorial spaces, and inside of those spaces we also implanted traditional structural, traditional compositions as well. And so it becomes like taking the train to composition number 8 or whatever. Yes, I'm looking for transport prototypes. I'm looking for designated prototypes. I'm looking for logic of opposition. I'm looking for the logic of coupling and similarity. Your question is moving right in the direction of our research. And we have much to learn about it. I have much to learn about it. Much of what I'm talking about, I understand 40% of it. But there's always something new coming up that goes outside of the paradigm, and so adjustments have to be made. But yes, I can never forget the great work of Sun Ra in Central Park. That demonstrated mutable logics. I'm only sorry that there's no videotape of it. I don't know of any recorded examples of it. I wish I could hear it. I go back to that experience, and of course the great work of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. I can't avoid this guy. Gruppen and Kari were very important area space models for me. In fact, the old man has, along with Duke Ellington and Yannis Anakis, been really important to me. And so I go back to them when I'm confused about how to evolve something, or if I've misdefined something and it's not working because it's misdefined. That happens a lot for me. Questions? Thoughts?
Actually, a follow-up on the Ghost Trance music. I mean, I noticed the scores seem to be typically 80 pages or so of notated material, and my impression is that the group starts off with a few pages and then goes off into other territories. And what are your thoughts in terms of, well, you mentioned ideally you would have an 8-hour, 12-hour concert. Would all of the written material of a particular one of the more recent compositions be performed, or are you comfortable just letting people select as they wish and getting to as much of the primary territory material as time permits?
Good question. I like it both ways, but I especially like having autonomy for the co-leaders and co-sections, where the section leaders can themselves decide what the ingredients of the area space will be that they are working with. And I will try to, in the future, keep this kind of relationship, but it just depends on what kind of new problems we run into. I really want a music where it's not about one person being in charge, rather a field of activities. That's really what I'm thinking in terms of a field of activities where I will be surprised myself because something will come up and I have to recognize it. And I'm trying to proceed in this way, but there's still so much to understand about it. And so I go to James Fay if I have a problem. I go to my guys and gals and ask them what they think, and they help me out. Questions, thoughts? Nico?
This is partly reflection because last night was my first experience performing with the group, but I feel that you've succeeded in creating a holistic experience for the musicians themselves in performing, because it basically involves such a high intellectual activity and at the same time intuitive and compositional, not only in dealing with your compositions but the compositional mind of the musicians. And what was really interesting to me with the Ghost Trance, because you have the way you're dealing with the pulse and creating these very complex rhythmical structures, it challenges, it moves you to such a high mental challenge that you become entranced as a musician in order to play it, because intellectually you just can't do it. You have to like involve your whole being in order to perform it, and which is kind of like a type of meditational exercise, and it's really inspiring to me, and I feel that I'm really learning a lot from the experience. And there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember what the last thing was. But
Well, all I can say,
I know.
blessed to have musicians like yourself to play music with. You played it so beautifully. Your solos, you took a couple of solos, and I found myself thinking, Okay, maybe I can get a job working with the sanitation department. It is wonderful to have you with us.
Awesome. The last thing I was going to say was, with that part of it, the ghost trance pieces, because you have the struggle involved in music, which is so beautiful to me, that it's not, you're creating an image of something that's not a brittle and clear image, but it's something that's more, it's like a fuzzy, something that you can't quite see. You're creating that image, the ghost of what you're saying. I mean, in terms of the name of it is exactly what it is, because like when you listen to regular, music, and there's a very identified and clear melody that is easy for the musician to be able to perform, and you have all these musicians playing this thing, and it's very, I'm sorry I can't come up with the words, but it's very defined. And this is something that is more of a rough definition, because you have people struggling to do it, and you have people that are doing it right on, and you have people in the struggle, which creates a being in itself, I think, a living being that is only within the dimension of sound, but it's a living being.
Well, thank you. In fact, I talk of the system as an entity in its own self. It has its own identity. The summation components of all 12 houses, I see that as an entity with its own will. But I must say, part of my good luck is that I've been able to attract musicians of your caliber who would give it a chance, and then you come in and play like you've been playing with us for 20 years. So I see this performance as the beginning of what I'd like to hope will be a whole new cycle of collaboration and friendship and respect, and arguing and crying about music and finding new books to read and researching music. This is the kind of thing that has kept me going, having the opportunity to meet and play music with someone like yourself. So thank you.
I'm very honored to have the experience.
Pull out the bass flute. It's, oh my goodness. Chicago. Questions, thoughts?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Could you say a little bit more about the tension? I think that Ms. Mitchell was alluding to a few minutes ago. Tension between, in your compositions, of a kind of intellectual aspiration, and I would associate that with, I guess, the task of composing itself, notation. The tension between, that task and what you described as being intuitive. In other words, an opposition between intellect and dream, if you will. Distance between, what it means to notate and what it means to depart from what's written in the moment of improvisation. I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about if you view that as an opposition or as a kind of convergence.
Model, a schema in many ways gives a possibility to have an experience similar to chord changes, in the sense that you have something, an activity happening that you can, if you want, look at it as a tonal energy as well. Your question is complex because in this period when I compose, I take a notepad and start to compose, and as the music comes in, the principal elements I will write down in the notepad, refeed it back into the music depending on what the piece is. Notated composition in this way is also composition and improvisation. It's all the same. When I play the instruments, on the surface it looks like improvisation, but actually it's composition and improvisation. And so your question is very relevant. The balance between mutable, fixed, and the unknown and the surprise. I'm looking for the surprise because that keeps me going. I'm looking for intentionality and definite structures because I found that without that, if everything is open, it's interesting. If you have two people engaging in collective improvisation, that's one thing. You get up to 7 or 8, 9 people, and suddenly I discovered that for my interests and value systems, you have less possibilities. The more people you have improvising freely. And so part of the challenge of composition for me has been composition as a backdrop template to define the terms of elements and connection. And in that sense, compositions in the second houses could be akin to speaking in French, in the third house speaking in German, this kind of thing. The syntax itself is part of the composition. It's transidiomatic because it's not about one melody that we go back to, rather there's a continuum of melodic information or information that we can call melodic. From the Native American ghost dance music, I began to see that there was another understanding of melody. And ghost trance music, for me, in the beginning, I talked of it as a melody that doesn't begin and doesn't end, but rather we were playing and we can grab the line, and the line is the melody or the ghost trance stream. So we're improvising, we can come back together on the stream. It provides the same kind of function as a traditional melody in the sense that ghost trance music gives the possibility for realignment, for the ensemble, a chance to, after dispersing, to come back and re-solidify. And so, as I understand your question, my response would be, part of what I've tried to do is take that number 3 unit and apply it to composition, improvisation, and surprise, and have that unit in every particular, whether I'm composing something, or whether I'm so-called improvising something, or gambling on a particular music strategy in the action space in real time. I try to approach a strategy based on known unknowns and connection variables. And this is something, now that the ghost trance music is complete, ghost trance musics are complete, that now I can really explore your questions, because there's much of your question that is before me. And so as far as what is this going to mean in the next 10, 20 years with the system evolving, I'm still trying to learn it. But this is how I've approached it, though, with the number 3. Questions, thoughts? Yes, Margaret.
I was wondering what the relationship might be between shaping the structures or the units or the geometry and shaping the ghost.
Interesting question. For me, I would say that there's a ghost for every geometry. And part of the mysticism of the music is to understand that ghost in its space. Every ghost has its space. Every space has its ghost. Now, if I could find a way to charge coins for the ghosts, I could be a billionaire. Get out of the music business and go into real estate. You're talking about something very real. You're talking about the mysticism of the music. Mm-hmm. And I can only say that I'm trying to move to evolve the spiritual synergies of my work by creating narrative structures, creating the context of poetics, the ghost can come if everybody is happy, and if there's a context where the ghost can come. Understanding that the ghost dance music, when it was put together, that came about in the time after the American Indian had been decimated. 98% of their culture destroyed. Various tribes came together and compiled what information they had left. And the ghost dance music was talked of as a form that would provide a curtain. On one side is reality for us, and on the other side, the ancestors. And that the ghost dance music would provide a forum to connect with the ancestors. That had a tremendous impact on me. And I'd like to hope that ghost trance music and its 12 basic characters will emerge in a mystical sense inside of the experience of playing within a particular quadrant. The mystical it, when the group comes together and everything is working or not working, but has that vibration. You know it when you hear it or when you see it, but you can't define it, because as soon as you define it, it's not it, but it's there. My answer to your question is I'm still trying to learn about it, but I'm aware that your question is important, because we don't play music just for ourselves. We play music because we want to be connected to positive forces. We play music for gratitude. We play music for motivation. We play for a range of poetics and psychology.
To save the world, too.
We play music to save the world.
Yeah.
And I really believe that when this next wave of creative music is unleashed, that good things will happen. That the musicians in this room, the ones I know, for me, have helped keep me inspired and wanting to go on. These guys have changed my lives. I know they could help the culture. It's just a question of the positive forces finding a way to hang together. And I'd like to hope and pray that that performance spaces will be created all over our country. I think the generation coming up in this time period has it harder than when I was coming up. At least when I was coming up, you can play on the door in a lot of places, and Downbeat would give some reviews sometimes. I mean, it wasn't totally hated. Now we have 2 new generations, 3 new generations, but the last 2 especially. I mean, these people are doing incredible work. But I don't see anything in the magazines, and they're writing about them. There's been a concerted effort to avoid creative artists whose work is not generic, whose work is not idiomatic, who are looking in the future in a way that is different from the controlling forces of this time period. But in the end, I agree with you, Margaret, and I must say, I thank you for all the work that you have done in this last time period. I hear the rumors and their little criticisms every now and then, but when you talked of Sardinia, all I can say is you talked as a sage.
Thank you.
Questions? Yes, John.
Yeah, on a mundane level, could you explain just sort of how things work on stage? Like what's the paper that people have in front of them? If it's not a trade secret, what do some of the hand signals mean?
In this period, there are different levels. We have the circle, that's language music, and then there are 12 ingredients in the circle. So I can say language music 1, language music 2, I can say language music 1 plus 6. I can hold up a sign saying 208, composition 208, we're coming there. More and more, since Andrew DeWar got me these blackboards, we can now play composition 96, page 8. or rehearsal letter R. What I hope for is a situation in the future where all of the notated material will be on television sets or on computers. And so we can just have it come up, and the friendly experience could be just moving along, playing a song. Suddenly the screen will come up, and the screen will say, possibilities are K4, G8, H10, just like you're on the highway. You're coming, Memphis, exit 8, Atlanta, exit 9. You're driving along, friendly experiencer, and you're being given information for routing and tracking. So this is what we have in the 12 Tet. We start with origin structure. In this time period, we're using for origin structures accelerator whip. But the accelerator class prototypes are used to integrate first, second, and third species ghost trans. So when we start to play, we start with the composition that we determine will be the main composition, the accelerator whip structures in this period. We start with that, and then I have 4 section leaders, and I never know what they're going to do. They'll come and work with the national team, or they might work with a local team. Then we have a sign that says reconfigured ensembles, and there are 3 reconfigurations. So suddenly that can go and play. The understanding, or one of the ways I'm looking at this, is a living space of activities and experiencers, and they're coming together in different kinds of ways. We never know exactly who's going to connect in, who's going to connect out. When we get to the end of the performance, usually the musicians will connect with national controls, me in this case. But my hope is, in the coming months and years, I'm going to design a symbol for what I'll call in-time experiences. That is to say, 5 minutes to go, team, and execute different parts of whatever your logics are. But be aware that in 5 minutes we're coming to the end. This way, we won't have to end with a sustain every concert or some kind of obvious ending. I like for things to just kind of stop on its own, the energies to stop on its own. We're not there yet, but in the coming months, my hope is to have a symbol that says 5 minutes to end time, and 5 minutes to complete whatever the components are that the various section leaders are dealing with.
In terms of the score, like last night, there'd be a main score, which is, I guess, 360. And does that incorporate some, like, one-page subparts of 360 that people could play at different points? And then there are also other sheet music from your prior compositions that you kind of pass out at the beginning?
Yes. There are horizontal signals. So this one is secondary music in composition 360.
And that's part of what you wrote when you wrote 360?
Yes. Ghost trance music consists of pulse materials and secondary materials. So secondary materials are constructed in trios. And so, and then the third component, we usually work with language music syntax. And then for each performance, I try and ask section leaders to be inventive, find your own set of quadrant components. It's akin to saying, oh, the good people of Oklahoma, we love you, but we're not in charge of your school system. We come in another way. You're in charge of your school system and your bus system. You're in charge of your building, construction, and architecture. But we come together in different time spaces. It comes together, it goes apart in different assignments. It's a music of activities. This is what I'm really moving towards. And add the triangle and bring in the singers. with 12 poetic stories, and you have suddenly several layers of available information that can be switched in different kinds of ways. In the end, for me, it's about designing a Tri-Centric, three-dimensional experience model. And inside of that model, the friendly experiencer will have a fresh field of experiences. I feel that the last 2,000 years have been wonderful, but we're now at a point where we need to get away from sonata form. We need to find a formal space equal to the possibilities we have in this time period. And I think that formal space is three-dimensional and multi-hierarchic. And so what it means for a performance is that we come together and each of the various sectional leaders have done their own private work. We go to hit and things open up. And then the aesthetic statement, I don't know, whatever the word would be, for the is navigation through form. Navigation through form. And that's what we do when we go to work. We have our components, we have a space for experience in the house of the circle. In the house of the rectangle, we have a context of ideas that evolve from motivic idea all the way to structural dynamic ideas, etc. And then we have a house of the triangle involving all kind of connections, reconnections, transferals, this kind of thing. It's like each of the components is like a giant soup with a lot of different things happening. And so a performance is bringing these different things together. And the only thing I ask is take a chance. If everything works, it's probably not right. Take a chance, have some fun. Kick it about, just try to find something. And let's have some fun. And look out for each other. And do your best. And that's really what we work for. Knowing that after the concert we'll have some wine. Maybe a cognac tonight. This is why I play music. Yes.
Question. Had you thought about or considered the possibility of perhaps doing one composition or starting with that composition for each set of this run, as opposed to, well, I don't know, I guess already plans to start off with a different composition for each set?
We have 11 compositions, and I think we only have 9 sets that we're going to play here in New York. Now, normally, for instance, with the sextet works with one composition. It is compositional centric, and inside of that, a tri-centric. With the 12 tet and 12 plus 1 tet, we work with all 3 species of ghost trance musics with the accelerator component. And so it's really a different structural and conceptual space than what the sextet is using.
I guess that was my impression is that there are just so many possibilities when you hit the stage and start off with composition 350 or whatever, that from night to night it could take so many different paths and result in such different realizations that is that something you'd be interested in terms of or is that I guess I'm thinking in more traditional terms of having a composition perform, whereas with the ghost trance music it seems as much of a performance strategy, especially with the accelerator class, as anything else. But do you? I mean, having looked at the scores, it seems there's definitely a lot of work you've put into the, let's say, traditionally composed material element of it, or the origin material. it seems so little of it is being realized. Is that well, what do you think about that?
I think your question is a really good question. In fact, the music that I've been working on for the last 10 years, when I think about the Ghost Trance music, and some of the compositions are 80 pages, but in fact, the average composition is around 20 to 30 pages. Ghost Trance structures come in different sizes and shapes. As far as what is actually performed in real time, well, out of 80-page composition, if we play 4 or 5 pages in unison, we've had an extended bout with it. But the reason I have written such long structures has been because I'm thinking in the future about performances that can go for 1 week, for 1 month, year, of different time scales. Not only that, when we go back to play composition 60, we have different things that we can choose inside of it, as opposed to, for instance, think of a composition like 3 Little Words, the 32-bar structures. Wonderful, wonderful. And Charlie Parker and Max Roach and the restructurers from the World War II period would bring in this new concept of chord changes that reopen harmonic dynamics and rhythmic dynamics in a different kind of way. What I'm trying to do with the Ghost Trance music is to redefine the idea of thematic, motivic, and rather than have a composition that goes from Mary Had a Little Lamb and then when it's finished it's complete, but rather it's like Mary had and then there's a lot of other things she could have had, and in each performance we can take what part of it we want. It's not necessarily about performing the whole composition. This is true actually in all of my work, but it became really apparent with the Ghost Trance music that the idea of performing all of a particular piece is not necessarily what has to happen. In fact, we have rarely gone through any complete composition. It's really a reservoir of material, and we can just use as much of it as we want. And for the longer pieces, there's just more material that could be used in whatever the setting.
If is there still a particular identity or characteristic of, say, composition 361 versus composition 362?
Yes, and at Wesleyan, in composition classes, when I'm talking about this, I talk of it based on my early understanding, which was you're walking in a sea of fog in a dream, and you're trying to figure out some direction to go. Suddenly, you hear musics, and the Ghost Trance musics and the Ghost Trance template was conceived as a music that said, oh, wait a minute, that's the direction because I'm hearing this kind of music. And where music aids in the navigation. And to make that happen, each Ghost Trance music geometrically is different, whether it's pitch or rhythm or even slur connections. Every composition is actually a different logic, even though in some cases different pieces might look very close. But it was not composed in a string with me going from this to this to this. It was, each piece is composed separately and composed with an understanding of I don't want to do what I did last time. Whatever this composition is going to be, it's got to be different than the mixture of last time. And so the difference in mixture will aid the friendly experiencer in a world of clouds if that experiencer is seeking to go in a particular trajectory. It's got to be recognizable, even though at this point we're in the beginning of this, and one could ask the question, well, how could you recognize it? But the more you're familiar with the musics, the more you'll see actually there's real differences. But the differences are not so much motivic. I think more and more in terms of just geometrically, there's a difference. I want the non-musician to be able to recognize it as well. So it's not just a wonderful tone roll that only music composition majors can enjoy as the composition fulfills the tone roll. Rather, it's a sonic geometric paradigm that can be recognized by the friendly experiencer in time. Questions, thoughts?
That related to something I wondered, which is what part can the audience or the listener play?
Margaret, you have wonderful questions. Thank you for your question. My real hope for the Ghost Trance music is to have concerts outside of the concert hall, where the music is happening in a community space, say Washington Square Park, and the friendly experiencers are walking all around in between the musicians or whatever. What part can the friendly experiencer play? In the future, there'll be dialogue skits. There'll be all kind of interaction possibilities, as opposed to the audience sitting in a little chair and the musicians on the stage having all the fun. I'd like to have a situation where the audience can have kind of like Las Vegas. I want to go to. What's the place nearby here?
Do we have to wear feathers?
Foxwood. Foxwood. We gotta find you have all these different things for people to do. People have to be able to have things to do, activities, and part of the future, part of the hope of the future, for me, as it related to the music system, is to design activities for each of the poetics so that the friendly experiencer can have things to do with the musicians and be a part of it. Because everyone needs creativity. And I'd like to hope that the beauty of the third millennium will create the kind of experiences that will change the separation from so-called musician to non-musician. In the end, I'm just interested in creativity, totally shocked like all of us, the fact that we're alive. This is miraculous that we're alive, that we can go to sleep and wake up and still have memory of what happened and it's still us. I mean, being alive is really miraculous.
Yes.
And I would like to hope that the third millennial experiences will have a closing between what is called music and listener, but rather the musicians will enable situations so that the total community can benefit from it and have fun with it. Okay, people, let me say thank you for even wanting to come in here. We talk about my work. Part of what used to depress me as a young guy, I knew I wasn't going to make any money when I made the decision to go in this direction, but I found myself in my 40s wondering if anybody was listening. Later, when it became apparent that there was a small group interested in my work, I was overjoyed and grateful because, well, I mean, you know, it's about sharing. It's not just about coming up with a hip theory. It's about the real world and the miraculousness of being alive and ways of sharing and being together and having fun. I think, I'd like to hope that as we move deeper into the third millennium, there's going to be a new balance between the creative people who are creative as a professional stance and the other creative people in the culture, understanding that our writers are creative, our scientists are creative, our athletes are creative, our carpenters are creative, I was the last guy to finish the wood block in wood class. It was clear to me that I was never going to be able to deal with the carpenter creative people because they were able to do it very neatly. My wood block was all, I had to keep working, I was always behind. So fortunately for me, there's creativity for everybody. Everybody is creative and if they're fortunate enough to find their space. And I'd like to hope that as we get deeper into the third millennium, that those people that we now call the musicians will work to facilitate this expanding or changed definition of creativity, where we will understand that the culture itself is music, and that life itself is music and creativity, and that harmony is what we seek. Harmony and looking out for one another, kicking it about, having some fun, and moving forward, because music has the possibility to move everything forward in a positive way. Okay, so let me say thank you people for coming today. And, yes, sir.